I'm Jeff Duncan, Josh Katzenstein. We're talking Saints-Rams, big game this weekend, and we've got all your predictions coming up. Saints are in a rematch game. The Saints, of course, won that first meeting 45-35 in Week 9 and really kind of controlled that game from the start, got up big at halftime, and then kind of held on at the end. We had this last week with the Eagles, and the Saints emerged victorious. What do you think this week?
I don't expect it to play out the same way. I'm not expecting 80 total points. I mean, you remember in that game, the Saints jumped out to a 35-14 lead in the second quarter and had 35 points at halftime. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams actually jump out to an early lead. The Saints have played 10 games in the divisional round or later in franchise history. They've only scored first once, and they've only led at halftime once.
And I agree. I think it'll be lower scoring. First of all, the Saints defense is playing better than it was way back then. The Rams, they were one of those veteran teams. If they came into that game earlier this year, they were unbeaten, if you remember. And I felt like they might have been a little bit in cruise control in that game. That's not going to be the case this week. I mean, a Lombardi trophy is on the line here. They're going to be on from the very first snap this week. I think both defenses are going to play a lot better. Well, coming on the heels of that Rams-Cowboys game, everyone's talking about the Rams rushing offense. Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson, they ran for 273 yards against the Cowboys, but they're going to find the sledding a lot tougher against the Saints. The Saints have the number 2 rushing defense in the entire NFL, and I think if they come into the game and try to run it and try to establish that run, that's a losing proposition. That's exactly that will play right into the Saints' hands and force them to be one-dimensional, and that's a recipe for success.
My number one thing is, how do the Saints stop Aaron Donald? I mean, they did a great job of it in the first matchup, and I think that was one of the big reasons why the offense had so much success. But we saw that the offensive line struggled a bit last week against the Eagles, specifically Andrews Pete against Fletcher Cox. So I think, Aaron Donald is an even tougher task for him, for Larry Warford, for Max Unger, for whoever he lines up against. So I think if the Saints can stop Aaron Donald, they can win the game.
All right, prediction time, Josh. The AFC Championship game, the second game of the day on Sunday in Kansas City. It's supposed to be very cold there. And Tom Brady, we all know, has a history of playing in these cold weather games. Who you got?
Everyone was talking about the snow being a big deal last week in the Chiefs-Colts game, but I think ultimately the better team emerged. And you know what? I'm sticking with the Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes has just enough magic, and I think with Eric Berry on the back end of that defense, they're going to be able to limit the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. We're going to agree on that. I think the Chiefs are the better team all the way around. Their defense has played pretty well lately. They shut down Andrew Luck and the Colts last week, much to Ryan Wilson's dismay, by the way. And I think they're going to emerge victorious again, and we're going to have a great Super Bowl match, regardless of who gets there.
Well, Jeff, this is the moment everyone's been waiting for. Who do you got in Saints-Rams?
Well, I'm going to surprise some people, I think. I'm picking the Saints to win in a blowout. I think this game is totally going to be controlled by the Saints from the opening kickoff. I don't think it's going to be that close. I think the Saints are the better team. I think they got their tight game out of the way, much like an NCAA tournament number 1 seed kind of does in the first round. All the pressure was on the Saints last week, and I think they played like it a little bit early. I think they got that out of the way, and I think they're going to roll on Sunday. I think they're the better team in all phases, and I think that Superdome's going to be rocking as they go to their second Super Bowl.
So I'm sticking with the historical stuff that I wrote about this morning. The Saints have struggled in January games, and I just think, that the Rams are good enough to jump out to an early lead. But I do think the Saints will, come back and manage to win. I'm going to go with 34-27, but I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to the final 2 minutes. Thanks for joining us, everyone. For Jeff Duncan, I'm Josh Katzenstein. This has been the Dat Chat Prediction Show. Enjoy the game on Sunday, and we might be talking to you soon about the Super Bowl.